Infinity Pool is the third film from Brandon Cronenberg, who made Possessor and Antiviral previously. The film follows Alexander Skarsgård as James, a disillusioned writer on vacation with his more successful and wealthier wife, Em. At the resort they're staying at, he meets a fan of his first book, a woman named Gabby, played by Mia Goth. As the two leads and their respective partners get to know each other, they go on a day trip, but upon driving home, James accidentally hits a man walking in the road. After he is arrested, he is told that the country's punishment for murder is death, but for a price, he can have himself duplicated, and his clone can bear the brunt of the punishment. James agrees, and upon watching himself die, a change occurs in him, and the film begins a very dark journey towards the abyss of the soul of the wealthy. Brandon Cronenberg has really come into his own with this film. Each one of his films seem to be getting better and more focused on the themes that interest him: wealth, corruption of the soul from outside forces, existential anxieties, dehumanization through science. Cronenberg has such a tight grasp on what he wants to do with this film, and every decision shot-wise is completely in service of the story. Visually, the film is very psychologically taxing in that every shot is meant to provoke anxiety and dread and extremely uncomfortable feelings. The film is composed mainly of close-ups with very few establishing shots, which allows us to experience what James is going through, the horror of being detained in a third-world country, and even more so when he becomes lost in this new world of unadulterated excess. We're as clueless as to his surroundings as he is. Many scenes feature our characters backlit to the point where they become silhouettes. A nice visual trick to mimic how the characters also use masks in the film to obscure their features and therefore their intentions, who they say they are, what they seem to be. Infinity Pool is an upsetting and unflinching film. It's a mean movie. The violence is hardcore and in your face, but the filmmakers know when to cut away to increase the visceral impact of whatever violence is happening on the screen. The choice of practical effects over CGI is a Brandon Cronenberg staple at this point, and he's gotten better at that kind of in-camera, very psychedelic effect look from Possessor. I thought Cronenberg's take on cultural appropriation within seaside resorts to be quite funny. The Chinese restaurant that the couples go to features a waiter who's dressed in what appears to be a very traditional Chinese garb, but is very clearly a white guy. One of the aspects of Infinity Pool I wish was more explored was the fictional country the characters are staying in, Latoka. During the film, the characters observe some local traditions and ceremonies the town are engaging in due to the upcoming rainy season. Small details are peppered through the film, like a strange alphabet, markings on the faces of certain characters to signify that they're taking part in these ceremonies, and a very bizarre architecture going on around the resort. Besides that, not much else is explained to us. The intention of this is probably to accentuate the idea of these tourists who do not really care about what's going on around them as long as they're being treated well by the staff. But it would have been nice, or at least interesting, to get more information, or at least just to understand more of what's happening around these characters and kind of the genesis point of these strange laws that accommodate the wealthy so well, while keeping a very conservative or almost fascist type of hold on the people in this country. Goth and Skarsgård are the highlights of this film acting-wise. I don't think Brandon Cronenberg gave many of the other characters much room to breathe as his two leads, but I do want to point out Cleopatra Coleman as a highlight in the film. I think her role as Em, James's wife, was a great anchor point for the audience, for us to relate and express these feelings of being very uncomfortable with the situation our characters are being presented with. She makes all the good choices we want our main character to make, which when he makes his bad decisions makes the film all that more tragic. Both Goth and Skarsgård have been flexing some strange muscles for roles recently. Alex Skarsgård loves to play a brutal monster and is bringing a lot of that toxic masculinity I loved in The Northman to this film, but in a new and somewhat more pathetic dimension than before. I feel like he was instructed to gain a few pounds, to look somewhat softer than usual, to extenuate the leisurely life his character must live up into this trip. As his wife said when asked what he does for work,
"You married rich."
It's very fun to watch a well-known actor who has been in large movies with high budgets choosing to take a lot of risks, which is a refreshing thing in this current state of Hollywood. Mia Goth is solidifying herself as a queen of horror, with X and Pearl bringing her high praise. Her character is high-pitched and grating, but I mean this in a good way. She gets under your skin, but you can still enjoy her menacing demeanor. I'm very appreciative of films like this that are given the opportunity of a theatrical release. I think we should all celebrate when a film this raw and mean-spirited comes out, and people get an opportunity to see something like this. I think they're important for people who want to take a plunge and go into some darker territory with the kinds of movies they watch, and then they can start seeking out things similar to it. It's also an opportunity for a lot of regular moviegoers to go see a movie with Alexander Skarsgård and the girl from X, and end up watching a confusing, mean-spirited movie that's too violent and not funny, and that they'll give a bad score to on CinemaScore. Infinity Pool is a movie I only recommend to people who understand what they're walking into. If you think you're just going to see a movie with actors you've heard of, it's on you to realize this film is filled to the brim with strange and uncomfortable content. And I'm not saying you won't like it, but it'll prevent silly reviews accusing people who enjoy the movie of only being positive about it to sound smart, which is one of the weaker arguments against a movie anyone can put forward.